So, we've all heard that standard advice about money, right? Go to school, get good grades.
Find a secure job, save your money.
Yeah.
Buy a house, pay off your debts. It's like the path most of us are taught. It's supposed to be the roadmap.
And, well, lots of people follow it very closely, hoping it leads to financial security.
But what if? What if that's not the only way? What if there's a completely different way to think about money? Lessons that maybe aren't taught in school?
That's exactly what we're digging into today. This deep dive is all about the ideas in Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, based on the text you shared.
Right. Our mission really is to unpack these key lessons the source claims the rich teach their kids. Lessons that the poor and middle class might miss out on.
We're exploring a different perspective on earning, managing, and crucially, growing money.
And the whole thing starts with the author's own story, doesn't it? Having these two dads.
Yeah, two really different father figures. His actual dad, his biological father, was highly educated, PhD from Stanford, I think.
But struggled with money. That was his poor dad.
Okay.
Then there was his best friend's dad. Less formal education, but became really wealthy, his rich dad.
Wow, what a contrast. One dad thinking the love of money is bad.
And the other saying the lack of money is the root of evil.
So having these two strong opposing views basically forced him to think for himself, didn't it? Instead of just accepting one way.
Exactly. He had to compare, contrast, choose his own path. And the source argues that's where real financial thinking, real financial intelligence actually kicks off.
Which kind of leads perfectly into the first big point from the source. Financial education doesn't really happen in school.
Mm-hmm. It mostly happens at home. That's a central argument.
Yeah, it makes sense. The source says schools teach you how to get a job, how to make money as an employee, or maybe self-employed.
Right. Skills for those E or says quadrants.
But not how to manage it once you have it. How to make it work for you.
Which explains why you can have, really smart people, doctors, lawyers, accountants, earning great money, but still living paycheck to paycheck or struggling financially. They're great at their profession, but maybe not so great with the money part. High professional IQ, maybe low financial IQ, as the source puts it.
And that difference often comes down to what you learn around the dinner table, basically.
Yeah.
The poor dad advice is study hard, get a safe job.
Which isn't bad advice on the surface, but it can lock you into a certain pattern. The rich dad, according to the source, is teaching about cash flow, assets, liabilities, different concepts entirely.
And just being exposed to those different views, like the author was, is powerful. It forces you to question things, not just accept one dogma.
Absolutely. Critical thinking about money.
Okay, so if home is where the real money lessons happen, it's lesson number 1. The source says there's basically just one rule you need.
Rule number 1, yeah. And the claim is pretty bold. It's the only rule you need to get rich.
Which is?
You must know the difference between an asset and a liability. And then you buy assets.
Okay, and the definitions are super simple, aren't they?
Almost deceptively simple. An asset puts money in your pocket.
In your pocket. Got it.
A liability takes money out of your pocket.
Out. Okay, asset in, liability out.
And cash flow is just, it's the story of how money moves. Where does it come from? Where does it go?
So let's trace that story for, say, the poor or middle class, according to the source. Income comes in from the job.
Right, the paycheck.
And then it flows straight out again, right?
Yeah.
To taxes, rent or mortgage, car payments, food, credit cards, just out.
Exactly. The money hits the income column and almost immediately exits through the expense column and the liability column. Very little, if anything, goes into building an asset column.
But the rich dad pattern described is different. Money comes in.
Yes, but a good chunk of it is directed into the asset column first.
Buying things that put money back in your pocket.
Precisely. Those assets may be rental properties, stocks, bonds, businesses. They then generate more income.
So the income flows from the assets back into the income column. It's like a cycle.
It's a positive feedback loop. Assets generate income, which buys more assets, which generate more income.
Whereas the other pattern is just income to outflow.
And the source argues that this fundamental misunderstanding, people buying liabilities they think are assets, like maybe a big house with a huge mortgage.
Yeah.
Or just not knowing the difference at all. That's the core reason so many people struggle. They're working hard, buying things that drain their cash.
Which leads right into this idea of the rat race. Sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's that cycle where you work harder, maybe you get a raise, your income goes up.
Sounds good so far.
But somehow you're still feeling broke or stressed about money. Why? Because as your income rises, your expenses and your liabilities tend to rise right along with it.
Lifestyle inflation. You make more, so you buy a bigger house.
Right. Bigger house, bigger mortgage, higher property taxes, nicer car, bigger payments, more insurance, maybe some furniture on credit.
So your liability column just swells up to meet your income.
Or even exceeds it sometimes. And the source points out, okay, who gets the biggest slice when your income goes up? Well, three big ones.
Let me guess. The government?
Yep. Taxes, your boss or company, because they control your salary and hours,
Okay.
and the bank through mortgage payments, car loans, credit card interest. You're working harder, but a lot of that extra effort is just feeding those three.
And relying solely on that paycheck makes you really dependent, doesn't it?
Completely dependent. If you lose that job,
Hmm.
poof, your income stops, but the liabilities and expenses don't. It's a precarious position.
You're stuck on the treadmill, running faster just to stay put.
That's the rat race.
Okay, so how do you get out? The source says it's about minding your own business. What does that actually mean?
It's a specific phrase here. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to quit your job tomorrow and start, like, a pizza place.
Right.
It means focusing your efforts, your energy, your extra cash on building up your asset column. That becomes your real business.
So keep the day job for income and stability, especially at first.
Absolutely. Use the job to pay the bills.
But consciously shift your focus from just spending or buying liabilities
Or personal stuff that loses value, like a fancy new car off the lot.
towards acquiring things that generate income, real assets.
Exactly. And the source lists examples, businesses you own but don't have to physically run yourself, income-producing real estate, stocks, bonds, notes like IOUs, where people owe you money royalties from, say, a book or invention.
Things that put money in your pocket, going back to that definition.
That's the key. And the source has this great image. Every dollar in your asset column is like a little employee,
Okay.
working for you 24/7, making more little dollar employees. Your goal is to build an army of these financial employees.
So you shift from working for money.
To having money work for you is the fundamental shift in perspective. And it ties into how people buy luxuries.
How so?
The source says the rich buy luxuries last. They use the income generated by their assets to pay for the fancy car or the big trip. The poor and middle class, the source suggests, tend to buy luxuries first, often with credit, essentially borrowing from their future labor, which just adds to their liability column.
That's a really stark contrast. Delaying gratification to build the system versus immediate gratification funded by future work.
It crystallizes the difference in mindset.
So building this asset column requires more than just desire. It needs a certain kind of knowledge, right? The source calls it financial intelligence.
It's not just about how good you are at your job, how much you earn. That's professional skill. Financial intelligence is about what you do with the money after you earn it.
How you keep it, how you manage it, how you make it grow.
Right. And the source breaks down financial intelligence into four main technical skills.
Okay, what are they?
First, accounting. You need to understand numbers, read financial statements, financial literacy.
Makes sense. Number 2?
Investing. The science of making money. Different strategies. Understanding risk.
Got it. 3rd.
Understanding markets, supply and demand, economic trends, seeing opportunities.
And the 4th one sounds intriguing. The law.
Yeah, this is about knowing the rules of the game, especially tax laws and corporate structures. How to use them to your advantage, legally.
Okay, tell me more about that corporate structure part. That sounds important.
It's presented as a major advantage, the wealthy use. Think about it. As an employee, you earn money.
Then you get taxed immediately, right? PAYE, income tax.
Exactly. The government takes its cut first, then you get to spend what's left on your expenses.
Okay.
But with a corporation, the structure is different. The corporation earns money. It pays its legitimate business expenses first. Things like salaries, supplies, maybe even travel or cars if they're for the business.
Before taxes.
Before taxes. Then the corporation is taxed on the profit that's left over after those expenses.
Wow, okay. So it's not about illegal evasion.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's about understanding and using the tax code the way it's written for businesses. Corporations have advantages employees just don't have, keeping more of what you earn. The source calls it one of the biggest legal loopholes the rich utilize.
So developing these 4 areas, accounting, investing, markets, law, is key to actually making that asset building strategy work.
It's the technical skill set you need. But, knowing the how-to isn't always enough, is it?
No, definitely not. There's the whole psychological side, and the source talks a lot about the internal roadblocks people face.
Oh, yeah. This is maybe the hardest part for many people. The biggest obstacle mentioned is fear.
Fear of losing money.
That's a huge one, yes. But also fear of what other people will think, fear of criticism, fear of just being different, stepping outside the norm.
And that fear can be paralyzing, right? Stops
Nah.
you from even trying something new.
Absolutely. The source uses an analogy, Mrs. Martin, someone scared to leave a secure but unfulfilling job. Fear keeps people trapped in the rat race, working for that paycheck, hoping more money will magically cure the fear.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't. The fear is still there every morning.
Okay, what's another obstacle?
Cynicism. You know, that inner voice, the chicken little, that's always saying the sky is falling.
Uh,
Cynics just criticize everything. They don't analyze. They just find reasons why something won't work. Oh, real estate, I don't want to deal with tenants, or the market's going to crash.
Focusing on the I don't wants instead of the possibilities.
Exactly. Instead of figuring out how to deal with tenants or how to invest safely, the source mentions Colonel Sanders getting rejected like 1,000 times
Wow.
before someone finally backed Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah,
He didn't let the doubters win. You got to shut down that inner cynic.
good advice. What else holds people back?
Laziness, but maybe not what you first think of.
Not just sitting on the couch.
No, the source describes it more as avoiding things you know you should do by keeping busy with other less important stuff, like avoiding a difficult conversation, or avoiding looking at your finances, or avoiding learning something new because it seems hard.
Like the businessman example, who worked himself into the ground but neglected his family. Busy, but lazy about the important things.
Precisely. It's avoiding the slightly uncomfortable things that could lead to what you actually want.
And there's a specific bad habit mentioned too, right? About paying bills.
Yes, paying yourself last. This is huge. Conventional wisdom. Pay all your bills, your mortgage, your credit cards first. And then if there's anything left over, maybe save or invest it.
Sounds responsible.
Seems like it. But Rich Dad's approach, according to the source, was the exact opposite. Pay yourself first.
How does that work if you don't have enough?
That's the point. When you pay yourself first, putting money into your asset column, you might be short for paying the bills. That creates pressure. Real pressure from creditors calling you.
Sounds stressful.
It is stressful. But that pressure, the source argues, forces you to get creative, to find new ways to generate income to cover those bills. It forces you to become financially smarter and stronger.
Whereas paying yourself last.
It means there's no pressure on you. You just accept whatever's left over.
Yeah.
You stay financially weaker, always reacting instead of proactively building.
Interesting. One more obstacle.
Arrogance. Thinking you already know everything, or that what you don't know isn't important anyway.
Like dismissing new ideas out of hand.
Exactly. The source says arrogance is just ignorance combined with ego. True intelligence involves recognizing how much you don't know and being willing to learn from experts, from books, from people who have achieved what you want to achieve. You need humility.
So overcoming these internal things, fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, arrogance, is really the key to unlocking the ability to act.
It seems to be presented as the biggest battle. You can know all the formulas, but if these things hold you back, you won't apply them.
Which brings us nicely to the next part. Actually doing something. Taking action and learning as you go.
Yeah, understanding is step one, but action is where the results happen. The source gives an example of taking a class on, say, foreclosed properties. You learn the process, the formulas, but that knowledge is useless unless you have the guts and the discipline to actually go out there and start making offers, analyzing deals, applying what you learn.
You probably won't get it right the first time.
Almost certainly not, and that's okay. The source really emphasizes that making mistakes is part of learning. Like Thomas Edison.
Didn't fail, just found ways that didn't work.
Exactly. People who are terrified of failing, of making mistakes, they often avoid success too, because they never take the necessary risks. Calculated risks, learning from failures, that's how you progress.
So what kind of practical actions does the source suggest?
Well, one is making lots of offers, especially in things like real estate or businesses. The idea is that your profit is often locked in when you buy at the right price, not just when you sell.
And you don't know the right price unless you make offers.
Right. Even offers that seem low. Don't be afraid to negotiate. The source tells a story about a friend who was too embarrassed to offer half price and missed a great deal.
Okay, what else?
Looking for bargains. Especially when markets dip or crash, most people panic and sell.
But the financially literate see it as a sale, an opportunity.
Precisely. Think big, too. Look for ways to do deals with scale, maybe partner with others to buy larger assets.
Don't just think small deals.
Right. And learn to see opportunities others miss. Train your mind to spot value or potential, where others just see, I don't know, a rundown building or an empty lot. Like that friend who bought a house and realized it came with valuable extra lots nobody else noticed.
Using your financial intelligence to see differently.
And learn how to raise capital. You don't always need your own money if you can find good deals and structure them right to attract investors or partners. There are ways beyond just going to a bank.
And crucially, keep learning, right? It's not a one-time thing.
You ever SOPs, seminars, books, audio programs, study successful people, the source calls them heroes, like a Trump or a Buffett or a Soros. Understand how they think, how they operate. Even listen to experts who disagree with each other. It sharpens your own thinking.
And there's that surprising point about giving.
Yeah, the principle of give and you shall receive. Teaching others what you know actually reinforces your own understanding and makes you smarter. Being charitable, too. The idea is that what you want, you have to be willing to give first.
That's quite profound.
And one last practical point. Pay your advisors well. Good accountants, attorneys, brokers. If they're truly good, and ideally practice what they preach financially.
They should make you more money than they cost.
Or save you more money, or save you valuable time, they become part of your team.
Okay, this has been a really comprehensive look at the core ideas, but it feels like it goes beyond just making money, doesn't it?
It does. Towards the end, the source broadens the perspective. It suggests life isn't just about getting a job or being a professional, staying in that E or S quadrant. It's about finding your path, maybe your purpose.
Developing yourself as a whole person.
Exactly. Mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Traditional school focuses almost entirely on the mental.
Right.
But changing deeply ingrained habits, like financial habits, or overcoming those big obstacles like fear, that often requires emotional and maybe even spiritual development. It's like telling someone who smokes to just stop smoking, or someone overweight to just diet and exercise.
Easier said than done. It requires a deeper shift.
A much deeper shift. And that's where tools like the Cash HF Flow game mentioned in the source come in. It's designed to teach these financial concepts, but also simulate the emotional experience, making mistakes safely, learning to spot opportunities, seeing different financial paths in a way that engages more than just the intellect.
Like a flight simulator for financial decisions.
Kind of, yeah. And there's a final story used as an analogy. The parable of the pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
Two guys, Ed and Bill, both hired to bring water to a village. Ed grabs buckets and starts hauling water immediately. Makes money right away. Bill disappears for a while. He's designing and building a pipeline.
I see where this is going.
Ed works hard, earns money, but he's limited by his time and strength. If he stops hauling buckets, the money stops. Bill eventually finishes his pipeline. Water flows continuously, effortlessly. He creates a system that delivers value and generates income, whether he's physically there or not. He can even build more pipelines to other villages.
So Ed is working for money, trapped in the bucket-carrying grind.
Like the rat race.
And Bill built an asset, the pipeline that works for him. Passive income, scalability.
Exactly. It's a final illustration of that core difference. Working for money versus building systems and assets that generate money for you.
So recapping this whole deep dive, it really starts with challenging conventional wisdom about money.
Understanding that financial education often starts at home. Learning that crucial difference between assets and liabilities.
And actively buying assets. Recognizing the rat race trap and how typical income increases often just feed expenses and liabilities.
Then shifting focus to minding your own business by building that asset column, developing financial intelligence across accounting, investing, markets, and the law.
Especially understanding those corporate structure advantages.
Right, and then tackling those big internal hurdles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits like paying yourself last, and arrogance.
And finally, taking action, learning from mistakes, making offers, seeking opportunities, continuously learning, and even the power of giving.
It's a call for active financial education and deliberate action, even starting small. The source mentions turning a small amount, like $5,000, into significant cash flow through smart buys.
It leaves you with a pretty provocative thought, doesn't it? That money isn't just paper or numbers.
It's an idea. What's in your head, your mindset, your financial literacy, your willingness to overcome fear, that's what ultimately dictates what ends up in your hands, in your bank account, your asset column.
So the key isn't just working harder for the money.
It's learning how to make money work hard for you. Playing a smarter game, not just a safer one. Building that pipeline.